Conceive, believe, achieve.
This is former UFC middleweight champion of the world, Michael Bisping.
Paddy the Baddy here. You're listening to Combat Sports UK.
And you're watching Combat Sports UK.
Hey everybody, before you jump into this week's Combat Sports UK podcast, I've got some exciting news for you. Do you want to look as stylish as Thomas Shelby when you train? Do you want to experience the comfort that can only be achieved by a cup of tea on a cold day? Well, good news for you guys. Ex-Martial has partnered with us, Combat Sports UK. They are the fastest growing brand in martial arts for a reason. They are making waves and taking practitioners with their slick, stylish, and hilarious designs that are fit for a king. From rash guards to shorts, streetwear, and more, Ex-Martial has got you covered. Ex-Martial is an extremely community-oriented brand, having given away over $50,000 in free gear last year alone, as well as sponsoring over 300 athletes. And if you shop using the code CSUK10 at checkout, you can get 10% off everything in store. That code again is CSUK10 at checkout. Go and check out xmartial.com and enjoy the fight. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Combat Sports UK MMA podcast. A little bit of a hiatus, but we are back once again to preview a pay-per-view, a numbered card. Islam Makhachev versus Dustin Poirier for the UFC Lightweight Championship. And I'm joined by a man who parties harder than Conor McGregor in fight camp, Jon Gamebred Boguslavski. How are you, sir?
That is fight camp. What are you talking about? It's good. It's good. How about you? How are you doing?
Yeah, all good, man. All good. Happy to be back on the pod talking about the fight. Yep. I think, again, it's another one of those UFC 300 hangover cards that we've got here. There's definitely some bang-up fights, but not a massive amount in the way of star power and those fights that really get you excited. But I think it's a great card, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. What are your thoughts on the card overall?
I think some solid underrated bangers on this card. I think it's good matchmaking on this card. Obviously Holland and Olajaychik as the fight right before the co-main isn't like a star-studded as 300 or what we previously seen at like 299. But I think it's some underrated fights here. I think there's some solid names and some solid matchmaking that was done here.
Yeah, and one thing that I do like as well, and that I hope we get more moving forward, is that co-main event is 5 rounds. That's my opinion that should be. If you're a top 5 ranked guy, you're fighting 5 rounds no matter where it is. Or if you're Nick Diaz, obviously as well. Apparently you fight 5 rounds, doesn't matter where it is in the card. But anyway, man, let's jump straight into the main event. Islam Makhachev looking for his third title defense.
Third title defense, yeah. Volkanovski
right?
twice.
His third title defense, and Dustin Poirier looking to come in. I think his third title shot. He's been interim champ before. But he's obviously lost previously to Oliveira and to Khabib, who will be back in Islam's corner. Makhachev coming off the win against Alexander Volkanovski, which we won't talk about. We're banned from talking about that second Volkanovski fight for this podcast. And Dustin Poirier coming off the win against Benoit Saint Denis. You like the fight? You don't like the fight? What are your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, I like the fight. I like Poirier, so I don't mind seeing him get another title shot. He did have a little bit of success against Khabib on the stand-up, right? He did see him. He was backing up Khabib and didn't let him utilize his wrestling in the second round of their fight. And obviously, we all know Makhachev and Khabib are it's his prodigy, and they fight similarly. They have a strong wrestling base. So I do think Poirier might have a little bit of a chance. I would like to see him keep it standing. We saw Islam knock out Volk in his last fight. I know we're not going to mention it, but hopefully
he didn't. It didn't happen. It
didn't happen, allegedly. But if Islam might be confident now in the stand up and has been saying, his manager's been saying, Abby's been saying his stand up has been improved. He might be a little bit happy with the striking, and we'll see if he does strike with Poirier, which I would like to see that. That will be in Poirier's advantage for him to do that, because he has a better boxing, better striker. Yeah. In terms of Islam, I think Islam has a simple game plan: to take him down and get a rear naked choke on him. I think that's got to do 3 for 3 title shots for Poirier, get submitted by rear naked choke, and I think Islam has to just to prove that he could do that.
Do you feel like Dustin's earned this fight, or do you think it's kind of a case of like this is where the division is right now, with Arman allegedly turning this fight down after he fought on 300? But do you think this is the fight to make? I guess.
This it wasn't the fight to make, and this is because where the division is, because where Islam is, because Islam didn't want to fight in January, February, March, April,
Yeah.
May. Sorry, he's fighting in June.
Yeah.
And his last fight was October or November in Abu Dhabi. So, and it was a minute and a half fight. So Islam could easily have turned around right before Ramadan started in April. Yeah, in April, fought one of those three pay-per-views, January, February, or March, and fight Gaethje, as we all thought Gaethje was going to be the one contender. And then, depending on what the half fight goes, UFC 300 would have been Arman and Oliveira as a title leader, and then you would have the winner of Arman and Oliveira, which was Arman, fight maybe not in June or July, August, something like around that time. Give Islam enough break between the Gaethje fight, or if he did win. So just more Islam dictates when he fights. Like Max said a couple months ago, is like you knocked out Volk, allegedly, and Volk turned around in February and fought for the fought a 5-rounder. Meanwhile, you've fought for a minute and a half. Before that, you fought all the way back in January against Volk. So it just like we previewed this year, Islam fights twice a year. Every year, it doesn't change. Especially now he's a champion. He's gonna fight now, and he's gonna probably fight at the end of the year if that even happens. And it's gonna be Arman, or if Poirier wins, it's gonna be Poirier and Arman most likely.
Yeah, I mean Poirier's talked quite openly about possibly retiring, and I think he would like to get that defensive notch on his belt, but also do you risk going out losing the belt right after beating someone like Makhachev? Yeah, I think it's an interesting narrative around the division as well. I mean, I don't think there is a clear cut contender. Arman is obviously probably the guy, but I mean, he's got the narrative with the Islam, the first fight and how that went.
I would disagree. There's definitely contenders like Gaethje, even though he just got knocked out. Poirier, he's always up there. He's like 1-1, but he just goes, who is he fought? He fought Gaethje, he lost to Gaethje and lost to Oliveira. Those are two people top of the division. Anybody who like he did with Benoit Sidney, who tried to get in the top 5, he beat him fair and square and knocked out second round. He didn't do it. So he definitely deserves a title, being in contention of a title shot, as is Tarukian, as is Gaethje. And I wouldn't even put Max in that category. He just knocked out the number 1 contender.
Yep.
And a fight he was dominating for 4.5 rounds. He could easily just jump in as well, even though he's ranked number 9 lightweight for some reason. He beat Gaethje as number 1 contender. As odd. I consider him a top 5, and I'm sure there's somebody I'm not mentioning, but I'm sure if McGregor and Chandler, if Conor wins, I'm sure they might even throw him in a title shot. So there's no lack of contenders. There's just a champion willingness to fight more often than you should. Yeah, that's my.
I mean, my point is like Tarukian really aside is that there's no standouts, right? You can't. I think if you look at Tarukian, didn't want to accept this fight. Who else is going to go in there? Would go in there at this point, right? You go. Michael Chandler's obviously tied up with Conor. Mateusz Gamrot has lost the most people above him anyway. Poirier's obviously the guy. Then you go down to Dariush, Fiziev, who's injured. It doesn't feel like the lightweight of Khabib's era, where you literally had those guys stacked behind Khabib, right? It feels like it has kind of no one's really putting their head really above the rest, aside from Arman to have got this fight. Could you have given it to Charles? Yeah, probably not. I don't know with the turnaround, but he's coming off a loss, so you can't really justify that, right? That's kind of what I mean with the division. I mean, let's change gears to Dustin. How do you see Dustin's chances in this fight, and how do you see him? This is massive for Dustin Poirier, right? As he wants to stamp his legacy on the sport.
Yeah, I'm a massive Poirier fan. I think a lot of people are. So I'm giving probably a biased opinion. I'm giving him more of a chance. Like I actually do see him beating Makhachev here, but I don't know. It might be just my biased opinion. But from what I'm seeing from Dustin throughout his career, through adversity, he can fight. He can finish a fight. When he gets pressured the most, like we saw him in the fights against Hooker, against Benoit Saint-Denis, against Gaethje in the first fight, when he gets pressured the most, that's when he does the best. Or even against Chandler, he comes back and he's even stronger. Islam, he likes the pressure. He doesn't throw strikes though. He likes to push away with jabs and then get you to the fence and maybe land something, then go for a takedown. So Poirier has to be smart about it, and that's when he shines the best. If he gets under pressure, gets his hands loose, and not worrying about a takedown, and knowing that if he gets taken down, he can come right back up or stuff the takedown, as we saw Volk did in his first fight. And Volk, I would argue, is a smaller fighter, and I don't know, better wrestler. I think they have equal wrestling because Dustin has amazing jiu-jitsu skills. If Dustin can not be afraid to be backed up, let his hands go and put some pressure on Makhachev instead of Islam putting pressure on him, I believe Dustin, that's where he's going to shine like a diamond.
Shine like a diamond. Yeah, it's an interesting when you bring in the only Volkanovski Makhachev fight, where you kind of see some of those doorways open, which we never kind of thought it could be. But I think it's easy to compare the two, right? Because similar styles and things like that. And then you can see that pathway to victory for Dustin Poirier. I mean, he's going to hit harder than Volk, and he's obviously going to have more size than Volk had. And Volk got to Makhachev in that fight, and he dealt with the wrestling side of things. I mean, you said it yourself, but what's kind of in your mind that makes you think, yeah, Poirier's got a chance here?
Being in with Khabib, I think that's he knows Khabib's pressure. He felt Khabib's power. They must be similar in terms of fighting, in terms of strength, if they grew up together their whole life and fought the same way. Yeah. So we did see Islam get knocked out by, I mean, granted, it's been like 7 years ago now. However, we did see Islam get dropped by Volkanovski. Poirier hits way harder than Volkanovski. Poirier could just land his left hook. He could drop Islam, as we've seen him get in the past. So I don't. And I think Drew Dober had a good chance against Islam. He caught him a few times on the chin, but Poirier hits. If Poirier and Dober are right up there, right? Dober has one of the most knockouts in lightweight history, and Dustin's right in front of him. So I think Dustin has a chance. You just got to test the chin of Makhachev, drop him down, make sure he stays down, and beat him there. That's why I'm giving Dustin a chance. I think he's gonna land something on Islam by surprise. I think Islam's gonna come a bit too confident, and the chin will be there for his fist to be presented with.
Or his neck will be there for the wrap. Can you imagine if he guillotines him? Can you actually imagine? I'm
gonna place a bet for Dustin Poirier by guillotine. I will. I'm gonna put a few bucks on it, but I will. I don't know if I'm gonna lose my shit more than Max knocking out Gaethje. If Dustin actually gets a guillotine on Islam, that will. You'll hear me screaming from Canada. I promise you that.
Damn. I mean, hey, if there's anything written in the MMA fairy tale, kind of like Robbie Lawler going out on a knockout, a walk-off KO that he did against Nico Price, right? That it's one of those moments that you kind of want to wish into reality, right? You've hinted.
Just want to mention, since that fight against Benoit Saint-Denis, and he said no gilly, the coach said no gilly, and Poirier said I will finish a fight by gilly. I think every UFC since then, fight night or pay-per-view, we've seen at least 2 gillies happening on the card. So I think it's just written in the stars at this point.
You're saying there's a chance, right? You've hinted at where you're going to go, but are you going to firmly stick to what you've hinted at in your little discussion there? What is your prediction?
I will stick. I will. I hope it does. I don't regret the decision. I'm going to say Dustin Poirier by KO round 3, 4, or 5, somewhere late like that. 3, 4, or 5.
So
that's
late.
When Poirier gets late in the later rounds. Championship rounds, if not round 3.
Tough one. I'm really on the fence with this one. I can see a path to victory for Dustin, but I also
Islam, yeah.
Islam is Islam, and I do think he is quite oddly underrated. Like people go at his record and things like that, but dude's an animal, man. Dude's an absolute animal. I'm gonna go fairy tale. I'm gonna put it out there. I'm gonna go Dustin Poirier. I'm gonna go by decision. I think it's gonna be. One of those where Islam puts it on him early, gets ahead 2 rounds, and then Dustin does ridiculous things later in the fight. Because I think Islam might have a little bit of a gas tank issue. We kind of saw it almost against Volk,
The
especially
one and
away
only
from
fight
home.
against Volk.
Yeah, exactly. The only fight against Volk. I could be completely talking out of my backside here, but I think in the later rounds, that's where Dustin's going to come strong, and that's where the diamond is really going to shine. That's my
For sure.
prediction. Dustin by
We've-
decision.
I can see that happening too, and it's true. We haven't seen Islam round 4 or 5, right? When he fought against Arman, we saw him gas out round 3. Again, that was years ago, but he hadn't had a chance to show himself past round 3, 4, 5 how he would do. So it'll be interesting to see. And another thing I'm taking into account is this weird stat that when there's Paulo Costa on your fight,
When there's Paulo
card,
Costa on the card,
there's N new evidently in the 2017 card of Bisping GSP. 3 NUs and Costa fought on the very first main card. So I guess a nice segue, but that's why I'm going with Poirier.
very nice segue. Yeah, so we'll go on to Mr. Secret Juice himself. Co-main event: Sean Strickland against Paulo Costa. Like I said earlier, 5-round co-main event. I absolutely love that. I think that's absolutely the way they should be doing these things. It bumps up a little bit the pay-per-view and it makes it a lot more interesting. I love this fight, man. I think this fight is fascinating. It's good to see Paulo Costa being active again.
Yep.
I thought he was good in the Robert Whittaker fight, but Robert Whittaker's just better, and that's no slight on Costa or many other fighters in the division. But I think Whittaker's just better, and if you go a distance with Whittaker, like Hamzat's going to find out, it doesn't end well for you. But let's stick to this fight. Strickland and Costa. Yeah, Sean Strickland coming off. I believe is this his first fight since the DDP loss? It is, right?
Yep.
Coming off losing his belt to Dricus du Plessis with a split decision, and then Paulo Costa obviously coming off that unanimous decision loss to Robert Whittaker in February on was it the same? No, it wasn't the same card. Was it? It was the next card onward. I like this fight a lot, obviously, but what do you think? How do you like this matchup?
Interesting matchup, I believe. I like that it's 5 rounds, and I think the 5 rounds actually gives an advantage to Strickland. But this is a very, very interesting fight. It's Paulo Costa, just meathead, juiced up Brazilian against the hillbilly trash talking Sean Strickland, who was a champion. You can't forget that. And some people argue that he did won that fight against DDP. So this is really good. I mentioned at the top, this is a really good matchup, good matchmaking.
Yep.
Strickland is not the easiest guy to hit. Paulo Costa hits like a truck, and he has really good kickboxing, various kicks, various punches. Strickland likes to keep it tight on top and move down and talk trash. And Paulo Costa likes to talk trash in the cage as well sometimes. Because he gives a little smile, has antics on the cage. So I believe this will be a fun fight. I don't know exactly. I've been going back and forth since they announced this fight, how this will go. But I believe I'll make my decision by the end of this conversation. But it's gonna be a fun fight. It's gonna be hard to hit Strickland. Strickland with those jabs, keep backing up Costa, get all those boxing going, and Costa trying to not take a step back during this fight.
Yeah, I'm just gonna throw 3 words out there: spinning hook kick. Spinning hook kick. So we've seen, right, Sean Strickland got done by Eliseu Zaleski dos Santos, who is also fighting on this card. Paulo Costa, you just mentioned the champion curse of Paulo Costa. Hey, there could be a few things written in the stars for this pay-per-view. I think it's really dangerous for Sean Strickland, man. I think like you said, the 5 rounds might favor him if he can stay in there for those 5 rounds. I mean, he has trouble with those heavy hitters, like Alex Pereira, for example, is one he's had trouble with. Yeah, so it's a tough one. It's a really real tough one. I think Sean Strickland does better against guys that don't so much blitz him and try to actually knock him out. And that he can kind of use that bombing and weaving. But I just think Paulo Costa's got enough trick to catch him with something. And I don't see Strickland's chin really holding up against. I mean, we saw what Costa did to Robert Whittaker. He made him do the chicken dance with the spinning kick in that fight. And it wouldn't surprise me if something similar like this happened. And Costa absolutely blitzed him and just finished him with punches against the fence or on the floor. But
Strickland has a different stance than Whittaker. Whittaker is more open. Has his hands low, and he likes to blitz in and out and try to land and come out. Sean is not like that. Sean will stand straight with his hands like this, and he would walk you down and not give you enough room to get that head kick, the spinning wheel kick. And I think since that fight against what's his name? You said is
the Dos Santos.
Yeah, Dos Santos. He has improved since then. He has improved since then. He did the confidence of being a champ. I think as much as he didn't care for being champ, he is still thirsty for that belt and wants to get it back. And this is definitely like a title limiter kind of thing, kind of fight. And Sean will not give Costa a chance to do a spinning wheel kick or spinning head kick. I think there'll probably be leg kicks, body shot kicks if he is fast enough. But Sean will keep up the pressure and keep going closer and closer. And Sean has improved since, I would even say, since 2020, since the COVID years. I think Sean has been on a different animal. And especially what he did with Izzy, who's the best striker in the game. He knocked him down, walked him down. Costa kind of fight similar in a way that like he likes countering, he likes going, he has power punches. But I see Sean really walking down Costa and not letting those big shots land as good. Look what we did to Duplessis. Duplessis is probably one of the better guys in the division who also has good striking and blitzes on takedowns. And Duplessis looked like he got hit by a truck, while Strickland had like one cut due to a head-to-head collision.
Yeah, it's very true. I mean, you can't underestimate Sean Strickland, which is maybe a little bit of what I'm doing, just because I want to see Paulo Costa get back to the top of the division, because I do really like the guy. Like, I really like his style, and it's just good to see him active again. I think he's just such a fun fighter, and he's good to have in the division. And it's a really fun fight for him up at the top end of that division. You know, you look at him against Hamzat, for example, right? Him against the champ Dricus. It's really exciting. Sean Strickland doesn't excite me. He doesn't excite me. He doesn't get me going. I'm not excited for this fight because of Sean Strickland. I'm excited for this fight because of Costa and the opportunity of what he could do. However, I will jump in with my pick. I think Paulo Costa is going to blitz him for 2.5, 3 rounds. Sean's going to survive and then just run away with it in the last few rounds. And I'm going another decision, unfortunately, but I'm going Sean Strickland by decision. Having said all of that, I'm going Sean Strickland by decision.
That's because the way Sean fights. I can't disagree with you. I'm not like a huge Sean Strickland fan, but I gotta respect his style that he learned to do. That he just doesn't get hit.
Respect it.
Yeah, you gotta respect it. Doesn't get hit as clean as much. I'm gonna one up you. I'm going Sean Strickland by split decision. He likes doing the split decision wins. That way, if Costa wins by split decision, I'll be like, well, look, I said split decision, so.
It could be, man. It definitely could be. I can definitely see a world where the first 2 rounds are pretty clearly Costa. The last 2 rounds are clearly Strickland. How did you score the third or the second or the fourth, right?
Exactly.
I could totally see a world where that happens. So no, I think you're spot on. But I think Sean will just come away with a bit more of a unanimous on that one.
Just add one more thing. With Strickland, if you look at his record, he has split decision losses and wins against Joe Dracus, against Jared Cannonier, which he lost to, and people could have argued he won. So he has that trend in his career ever since 2020, ever since the lockdown era. So it's gonna be a close fight either way.
It will, and yeah, I mean, there's definitely a world where that happens. So next one, also at middleweight, making a return is Kevin Holland coming off his loss against Michael. Oh, excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you. That's allergy season, my friend. So Kevin Holland coming off the loss, the unanimous decision loss against Michael Venom Page, going up against Michael Oleksiejczuk, also coming off a loss but a first round rear naked choke to the surging Michel Pereira. Now, this is what I'm talking about with one of those fights where I say it's not stand out for a pay-per-view fight, right? I don't know where this fight come from. I don't know why it's on the card. I'm confused. Kevin Holland, why are you going back up to middleweight? What's going on here? John, fix my issues, my questions. What about the moolah, the money?
Of course, the money. It's all about the money. I think, does this fight make sense to be the third fight on the main card? No, but I think it's good matchmaking. I think long and ragey Kevin Holland versus Oleksiejczuk, who since he moved down to middleweight, had looked good, but then he faced actual middleweights and he had trouble with it. So I see this fight either going as a fun 3-round kickboxing fight, kind of really fun, like could be potential fight of the night thing, or a first round knockout for one of the guys.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not holding too much hope for Oleksiejczuk, to be honest. I think Kevin Holland is an elite level fighter, top 15 on his day, top 10. I wouldn't go as far as top 5 maybe, but he's definitely an elite level fighter. And you look at, the guys that Oleksiejczuk has dropped to, but also the guys he's had victories over. The guys he's beaten, Sam Alvey, Cody Brundage, those victories don't look great, to be honest, right now. So, his most recent one against Chidi Njiguani, I think I got that right. He finishes these guys early. Chidi Bang Bang, yeah. He finishes these guys early on in the fight. So he's obviously kind of at and around a certain level, but I do think that Kevin Holland is, if not 2, 3 levels above that, right? I think you're talking, Oleksiejczuk maybe, and a third, well, maybe a second fight on the card of an Apex event.
Mm-hmm.
And you're talking Kevin Holland is a pay-per-view fighter for me anyway, when he's fighting up against those guys in the top 15. And if not, he's at least a fight night on the road, so a main event type fighter, right? Or even main event if he's got another name with him. So I think there's levels to this, and I think Kevin Holland's going to show that, to be honest.
Yeah, well, the reason they made the fight here because Roman Dolittle is supposed to fight Fluffy Hernandez here, and Hernandez got injured, so they kind of they were missing a card on the main card. So I don't know who you would have put out of people. If I'm looking down the card, maybe Kapilov, you would have moved him up, but I think people like Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland has a good amount of following. I think you'd be surprised about how much of a fanfare he does have. He is quite popular guy, I think, because of his antics, the way he talks in the cage. And like you said, he is a good fighter. He's not like championship material, but he's definitely top 15 material.
Yeah, for sure. And that's how I see this fight going. I think Kevin Holland can finish this whatever way he wants and fight on a Sunday, right? I don't give Oleksiejczuk a chance in hell at all. And I think Kevin Holland by whatever he wants, first or second round is my prediction for this one.
I'm going first round submission, Kevin Holland.
Yeah, I was thinking something like a triangle, something like that, right? You can
just a rear naked choke, something like that, or a gilly, or a guillotine,
or a gilly, right? Or a gilly. So moving on from there is Gelton Almeida and Alexander Romanov. Almeida coming off the loss to Curtis Blades, kind of one that kind of ended his Tom Aspinall, his run, that run towards Tom Aspinall, or the fake champ, that other guy. And Alexander Romanov coming off the victory against Blago, even off the unanimous decision win. So obviously Romanov looking to climb the rankings by kind of getting hold of and beating Gelton Almeida. An interesting fight for Almeida. I think he's finally quite a bit of adversity after that Curtis Blades loss, after kind of having his own way with a lot of people up until that point. Not really, to be honest, looking slightly in trouble, right? But then as soon as he shot on Curtis Blades, the higher skilled guy, the bigger guy, saw it coming and just put his lights out, right?
Yep. I think it's good matchmaking for this fight. You can't forget Romanov was also on a roll before he got finished by Tybura and Volkov. And if you look at
Yeah.
Tybura and Volkov, they're both in the top 5 division. Tybura is going on a crazy streak with his only losses being to Aspinall and somebody else can't remember because he's on he has wins of his 9 out of 11 fights. Pretty good streak in the heavyweight division. You know, Volkov is top 5 division for a long time.
Yeah.
So Romanov was on a big streak coming into the UFC, and he had, what does he have? He has 10 submission wins and 5 by knockouts and only 3 decisions in his career. So he has the potential of being somewhere there. I think he dropped 2 fights in a row, lost a bit of his confidence. He tried to change. I don't remember. I don't think if you remember. He tried to either get leaner. He tried to change his diet or something like that, and he dropped to Volkov. So let's see what he does now. I hope he goes back to before his loss to Tybura, because he's been finishing people. He's been dominating people on the wrestling. And who is better than to wrestle with someone in Jelton Almeida, who's been wrestling everybody, who we had complaints about, like, oh, he's a boring fighter, kind of wrestling people the whole time. Well, you lost Curtis Blades, who's a natural heavyweight 265 wrestler. Now you're gonna have another natural Romanov 265 wrestling heavyweight. See how you do against that, and truly see if you're actually just drop the ball against Blades or you belong in this division. I think it's good matchmaking here, to be honest.
Yeah, no, so do I. So do I. You got 2 guys with, pretty similar styles, and it's a nice little clash. Sets it up well for the division. I think that question is always going to be there, right? Is he right for the division? Could he get down to 205? His last weigh-in was 240. You do hear of a lot of light heavyweight guys that kind of walk around at that. Is that an option for Jelton Almeida? I don't know. I don't know if he's just too big for it, or if he's going to be too small anyway. I think for the big guys in the division. I mean, you saw it against Curtis Blades. Curtis Blades is a big boy. Tom Aspinall is a big boy, right? I think he's always going to struggle once he gets up there. In terms of this fight, look, I do think he's got the skill advantage over Romanov. I think he's got the finishability also that Romanov does have, but I think he's just got that better control than Romanov. And I think, training out of where he's training and the bodies he's got around him in terms of sharpening his tools, I think is going to give him the edge in this fight. So I'm going to say Jelton Almeida by decision. I'm going for a lot of decisions, actually. I really, apart from Kevin Holland, it's quite unusual for me. But yeah, Jelton Almeida by decision.
I know I hyped up Romanov right before saying this, but I do think Almeida is a little bit faster than this because he's lighter. He has the advantage. He is definitely a strong guy. He could definitely take down Romanov a few times. All he has to do it. Only has to do it 3 times. Beginning of each round has to take down Romanov and pull him down. And I don't think this will be a fight pleasing for the fans. But I do see Almeida going to a decision. I think he's going to be holding him down. I don't think we'll see any striking kind of here. I think he's going to try to take him down. Try to take him down. Romanov, we definitely see him on his back before, but he's able to reverse positions. So hopefully it will be a good grappling matchup that we'll see a lot of position changes and submission attempts. But I do see Almeida taking this to a decision.
Yeah, me too. I think this is the one where you go and refill whatever drink you've got. You go to the bathroom. You kind of take a little break before the rest of the card. So the opener of the main card, one of my favorite fighters I really enjoy watching, Randy Brown against Eliseu Zaleski dos Santos. This should be an entertaining fight. Eliseu coming off a split decision win against Abubakar Nurmagomedov. And the rude boy Randy Brown on quite the run, just beating Muslim Salikov in the first round with a straight right punch. In a good run, but he has also dropped the fight in there to Jack Della Maddalena. Randy Brown, I believe, is ranked. I'm just going to double check that.
I don't think so.
No, he's not. He must have dropped out of the rankings then with the Jack Della Maddalena loss. So, yeah, man, I like this fight. You know what you're going to get from Randy Brown, and Zaleski dos Santos is a gamer as well. He likes to get involved in it. So this on paper looks like a really fun fight.
Oh yeah, it should be a nice kickboxing fight. It should be one of the good matchmaking we talked about good
Yeah.
fun fight for the fans. Randy Brown has some slick striking. He likes to keep his hands down. He's very tall and lean for the division and likes to move around. So I do think Randy Brown has the advantage here. I think he is the better fighter. He is the younger fighter. Don't quote on me on that. Let me double check. He is the younger fighter.
Yeah.
Zaleski is 35 or is 37, so I think he's definitely on the older side. Randy Brown is trying to build up momentum. His only true loss is against Jack Dillon and Lena Vicente Luque, who are the top echelon division, although Luque has dropped down. So let's see if he can build back up and take that spot back into the rankings and build it back up. Randy Brown's a very fun fighter no matter who he's matched up against. Zaleski he try to keep up with Randy Brown, and he does like those firefights sometimes. He likes those firefights. So let's see if we can have a little firefight in here, and if he could take the shots from Randy Brown.
Yeah, let's see. I think Randy Brown's, Zaleski's a bit of a wild man. So I think Randy Brown's counter ability will come into this as well. And I see him catching him with something of that ilk, kind of like an overhand or a hook or something of that description. I think Randy Brown will finish this in round 2, going for a finish.
Yeah. Just to be different from you, I'm gonna say round 3 finish. But I did see a round 2 finish. I think it's a lot of like blitzing from Zaleski and Brown staying on the outside. Like we literally, the way we described Brown against Salikov, his last fight, like stay on the outside and knock and hit him. He did it perfectly like that in the first round and knocked him out. So I think he's gonna get another knockout, get him right back into the rankings, especially with Luque and Diaz announced. And
yeah,
Luque at 14 might lose his ranking if he loses, or if he wins, he'll be still 14. So it might be a good rematch in the making after a few years. Yeah.
For sure. So, I mean, we're pretty in agreement on this main card, actually, right? We're kind of seeing things the same way.
We're very hopeful for the main card. We're like, we're hopeless romantics, let's say, and then we're very logical for the rest of the card.
Yeah, I think they'll be. Look, I think aside from the Jailton Almeida fight, I think they'll all be fun fights, and I think the Jailton Almeida will be a bit of a bore fest, and there won't be too much unless he can sub him pretty quickly. There won't be too much fuss about Jailton. But that being said, let's dive into the prelims. So from the prelims, we've got at the very top Roman Kopylov against Cesar Almeida. Kopylov, the big version of Chase Hooper, right? We know very well what this man is capable of. I think you gave me a nice reminder before his last fight of a certain liver kick he hit, or a punch, was it, that absolutely floored one of his previous opponents. So he's coming off a loss to Anthony Hernandez by rear naked choke, and Cesar Almeida is coming off a win on his UFC debut against Dylan Budka with elbows to ground strike. So what do we know about this fight? What are our thoughts?
Yeah, I think again, good matchmaking. Almeida is probably, people know him less for sure, but he was in a contender series. I'm trying to find that out. He was in a contender series and got a decision win. Then he fought Dylan Budka, got the ground and pound with the elbows finish. But I think Kopylov's in the next level. And the way you confirmed to Chase Hooper, yeah, Hooper now is a great striker. So I think definitely they're the twinning here. And and I just like Kopylov. I think it was unfortunate how he went down against Fluffy Hernandez, but I think that just tells you about the role Hernandez is on, how good Hernandez can be. But Kopylov's amazing striking. I think he literally throws all of his strikes with so much precision and meaning. It could drop and hurt anybody. And we'll see how Almeida does. It is a big jump from fighting Budka and fighting Lucas Fernando in the contender series. He's also just 4-0 or 5-0. He's 5-0, so it's a big jump. Kopylov is definitely way more experienced and precise and more like a veteran at this point because of how many fights he's been in the UFC now. Because he hasn't debuted that long ago. He debuted when in 2022. And he already has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fights. There's 7 fights to UFC. So he's been active. He's trying to get back. He's right on cusp of the rankings. As you can see with Fluffy, he was right there. So he's
Yep.
definitely close enough.
Yeah, it's close enough, man. And like you said, the one thing that jumped out to me is how big of a step up this is
Yep.
for Almeida. Because Kopilov is right there, if not ranked really close to the rankings after that Fluffy Hernandez, before the Fluffy Hernandez loss, should I say? And the dude is so good, man. Kopilov is so good, and I think I remember when we were doing the preview, I did not expect him to lose in the manner that he did against Hernandez. So it just goes to show how good Hernandez is. So this will be a really interesting fight. I mean, Cesar Almeida obviously coming across from kickboxing, where he's got a loss to Alex Pereira anyway. So you wonder kind of where he is. 36 years old. Kopilov is a younger guy. Is this kind of going to be a bit of a flash in the pan? I.e., got signed off the Contender Series, off of a decision as well, right? And that's pretty uncommon for the Contender Series that you get, unless you're really good. You don't usually get signed off the back of decisions. So yeah, I think it's interesting. I always like to see Kopilov do his thing because he's such an accurate and such a, he throws the power as well. Like he throws his strikes with power. He's not afraid to get up and amongst it. So I think this is going to be an exciting fight, man. I think it's going to be an exciting fight to see in the main card. It could be either one of those where Kopilov just completely steamrollers him, or we see a real big surprise from Almeida. I don't think it's going to be like overly competitive. I think it could be one way or the other, really. But I could be a bit wrong in that, given not knowing too much about Almeida, to be honest. But yeah, I think it could be one of those ones. I kind of lean towards Kopilov steamrolling him a little bit.
Same here. Kopilov, 11 wins by knockout, and only two of his fights went to a decision.
Yeah.
One of them which he won, the other one he lost to, and obviously he has 2 submission losses. We just saw one against Fluffy, but that's I believe that's like 90% finishing rate for Kopilov.
Yeah.
And I don't see it any different. Like you said, Almeida is the older guy. They're trying to kind of steamroll into the rankings and get into a title contention quickly because Dana doesn't like signing older guys. That was his chance. I don't know what was happening with Almeida. Was he injured? What was happening? But I don't see a victory path for Almeida here at all. I think round two or round 1 finish knockout for Kopilov easily.
Yeah, I think I'm going to stick with you on that one as well. I think Kopilov's going to show his levels and then get back to fighting another ranked opponent. So I'm going to go finish in the first. Next up is Grant Dawson and Joe Selecki. Grant Dawson's one of those guys who's kind of been there or thereabouts for what feels like a couple of years now. From when I've chatted to Chris Duncan, he's always had such good things to say about Grant and his abilities and his training methods, and just how hard the guy works. And Joe Selecki as well is kind of another one who's knocking on the door a little bit. This feels like kind of 2 contenders coming very close to each other, and trying to meet kind of at the cusp of the rankings. Selecki coming off a loss to Jakar Close. And I think Grant Dawson is coming off a loss also to Bobby Green, which many of us didn't really expect. That's the fight where we kind of expected Bobby Green's, I don't want to say, not luck, but his run short for him to meet his level. So how do you see this one with Dawson and Selecki?
To mention as well, Bobby Green, that this is his only loss in the UFC against somebody.
Yeah.
So Grant Dawson has been steamrolling since he won the Contender Series and been steamrolling through the UFC. It was a slow buildup. He did get a few draws in that, or only one draw against Ricky Glenn. So it's like he just has to continue on the roll. Bobby Green, anybody who he would have faced that night and landed the same shot on the person, he would have finished anybody. So it was so happy to be Grant Dawson that night. But Grant Dawson is still a good fighter. I think he's not prospect anymore, but he's in his prime of his career now at 30. Joe Selecki also likes to stand and bang, and Dawson likes to do it as well. I think Dawson is probably the smarter fighter and more well-rounded. Yeah. And that's why I see Dawson just to continue his streak. He felt like what a top 15 fighter will do in the lightweight division. So let's see if Dawson can build himself right back up and continue what he did right before. Because I don't think they're gonna slow play him anymore. I think they'll definitely
Nope.
get him into a funner fights with like the hookers, Jalen Green, Moicanos, people like that. If he wins this fight,
Jalen Turner.
I mean,
Your name's mixed up there. Or do you mean Bobby Green? Do you mean get in the rematch, or do you mean Jalen Turner?
well, yeah. So I think like if Dawson wins this fight, he might have some fun fights with like Don Hooker, Jalen Turner,
There we go.
anybody
Yeah,
who's
yeah,
in the
yeah, yeah.
top 15.
Jalen Green.
Moicano,
Imagine that fighter, man.
Jalen Green.
Imagine that fighter, Jalen Green. Listen, I want to get to some new stuff. I mean, so is there anything else kind of on this card that really jumps out to you that you want to let the people know about?
I guess the first fight tonight, Andre Lino versus Mitch Rapasso. Uh, prospects in the flyweight division. Flyweight division is always fun to watch. Now it's either it's either like a 5-round boring fight or a kick-ass fight. So I
Yeah.
expect him a kick-ass fight. Lima, he has 5 wins by knockouts, 2 by decision, 1 by disqualification. So we'll see how that goes. And then Mitch Raposo as well has 4 wins by knockout, 3 by the submission, 2 by decision. So it's a good, well-rounded fight. It's good to see the flyweight division getting more and more contenders, because we saw the lack of contenders for the championship we have.
Yeah.
So as long as you get the old guard out and new guard in and get an actual division, we'll have contenders who will be a fun fight against who. Yeah.
Yeah, it should be fun. I mean, one that I'm going to point out is Nico Price and Alex Morono. I think that'll be a ton of fun. Nico Price is always a fun fighter to watch, and Alex Morono is just a warrior, and he's an absolute beast. And Mickey Gall and Basil
I'm not a fan
Hafez
of
should be.
I'm just not a fan of Morono.
Mickey Gall and Basil Hafez should be a good interesting fight as well. We know what Hafez can do with the fight against Jack Della Maddalena, and Mickey Gall's always in or out, it seems, a little bit. He's always obviously going to be known for the CM Punk, the absolute destruction of CM Punk. But let's jump into some news, my man. I mean, look, we've got loads of articles on the website from this particular pay-per-view, to go read some more about the particular fight. The one thing I want to get your thoughts on is something that's baffled me since I saw it yesterday. Is Nick Diaz, Vicente Luque in a 5-round fight in Abu Dhabi. Nick Diaz obviously returning after his loss to Robbie Lawler, which was Robbie Lawler, right? Which was also a 5-round fight. And he didn't look good. And now he's getting a ranked opponent. Make it make sense to me, please.
I can't. What they should have done was Tony Ferguson, who's also moving up to welterweight, and he's also like, I don't know, he's on a 7-fight losing streak, also on the older side. I think that would have been the fight to make at welterweight for a 5-rounder, just please the fans right before having Sanhagen and Umar Nurmagomedov fighting.
Yeah.
So I can't really explain it. I don't understand. Diaz has been kind of inactive. Last time we saw him fight. It was supposed to be a welterweight, and then a day before the weigh-ins, he said he won't make welterweight, so change to middleweight. And after 2 rounds, we saw him give up against Robbie Lawler.
Yeah, capitulate, didn't he?
Yeah, I would say Luque is kind of like a modern-day Diaz. Like, he puts in a lot of pressure, good striking, good jiu-jitsu. But I don't see this. I don't know what they're trying to do. I did hear that they're trying to do Holland versus Diaz for this card, but it wasn't going through. Some reason didn't work out. I can't explain to you. I don't know. I know Luque, you could have switched easily Tony and Diaz to fight each other, and then Luque and Chiesa rematch after Luque did what did he do on him? An anaconda choke on Chiesa, and see if Chiesa has been so inactive as well. So you need to, and since Luque's ranked 14, he's on a losing skid, and Chiesa hasn't fought in a while. That would have been a good time for a rematch, kind of. So I don't know. I'm confused about this, but I'm excited. You know, as a fight fancy Diaz back, see how he does against Luque. Of course, if he gets to 14 ranked, let's see what he does next. And I don't know if he'll ever fight for the title, but what do you think? I think it's kind of odd matchmaking.
I don't get it, dude. Like you said, I'm exactly the same boat as you. Doesn't the Chiesa Luque fight makes more sense? The Diaz Ferguson fight makes more sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't. quite understand why they've gone this route. I mean, do they really believe Nick Diaz has got a title run in him at 41, and the dude hasn't won since 2011? 2011. 2011. I hadn't even started my university degree in 2011, right? That's
Yeah,
how
that's
long that ago that was, right? That, to me, it just seems crazy. I don't understand why they're doing it. I was never in the Nick Diaz era. I saw some of Nate Diaz, so I don't personally have that affinity to him. Is it one for the hardcores, kind of a throwback? Is he trying to fight out his contract? Is it for money?
it's,
I don't honestly, I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't understand, especially after the Robbie Lawler fight. It just doesn't make
yeah,
sense to me.
especially after Robbie Lawler, and especially it's in UAE.
Mhm.
Diaz's profile as a person doesn't match the UAE kind of
The vibe.
vibe. You know what I mean? So it is odd. Like, it's a big stoner. UAE
Yeah,
is very strict on against that. I don't know if he
yeah.
realizes in UAE. He has to fly. He has to
Don't know if he
fly,
realized it.
right? He has to fly probably like 16 to 18 hours from the US, the West
Mhm.
Coast to get to the Middle East. Like, I don't know. It's just odd. I guess Diaz probably really need the money, but he has his own school. He's doing well. It sounds like he's doing well. It brings it back to the Lawler and Diaz fight. After it was finished, Lawler asked him like, "Are you good, like in life?"
Yeah.
And Diaz like, "Yeah, I'm good." He's like, "Thanks for." So maybe it was something behind there, like because Lawler was even confused. He was fighting him, and he gave up like that. So it's just
Yeah, an odd
odd.
one.
It's an odd to be excited for. I'm like, oh, it's cool, but okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was a prank at first when I saw the announcement. I was like, what? There's a
Yeah, I thought I was seeing things. I'll run through the rest of that card, and you can kind of go on whatever you want to talk about. We got Corey Sandhagen, Nurmagomedov in the main event. Marlon Vera against Davison Figueiredo, Mackenzie Dern, Lupita Godinez, sorry, Ferguson Chiesa, which you obviously talked about, and then Alonso Menefield and Asmat Mirzakhanov. I mean, where do you want to go next? Marlon Vera, Figueiredo, or Ferguson
uh,
Chiesa?
I
Which
mean,
one takes your fancy?
Figueredo and Figgy and Vera and Cheeto. That's a really fun fight. I think. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, I just think in this fight, Cheeto's a bit bigger. He's actual 135er and he hits like a truck. And Figgy's been kind of bullying people in the bantamweight division, trying to get them down, wrestle them, put them in the cage. But I think it's good matchmaking. And honestly, good for Figgy moving up the weight division like he is, being active like he is.
yeah,
If he gets against Cheeto, I don't see why not. If he's probably one fight away from the title shot, and it would be quite interesting to see how he'd do against O'Malley with his wrestling and jiu-jitsu and actually try to become a two-time champion. Because who who else has been a champion in another division had to go through 3-4 contenders before getting a shot at a higher division.
yeah, for sure.
And
That's a good point.
so Figgy's doing it right. He's gonna get a lot of favors, I believe, from Dana from the UFC. So he might go up there. Interesting matchmaking though too. So interesting how Cheeto will do with the wrestling and jiu-jitsu. But I do think Cheeto's the harder puncher and the bigger guy in this fight. Tony and Chiesa, honestly, thank God. Tony's not getting like an up and comer guy, and someone's been inactive, someone's been losing as well. Like Chiesa's
Yeah.
been doing it, and Chiesa's been losing by those anaconda chokes. Maybe it's a good little send off for Tony to get finally a win, a finish, and then right off the sunset in the desert.
Yeah, I think that's what we all hope is going to happen for Tony. Right? Personally, I don't see it. I just think he is so washed. It's not even funny.
I don't think Chiesa's even that good anymore. I think Chiesa he moved lightweight was troubles for him to make weight. He's welterweight.
Yeah,
He's too small for that, and I think I think it's gonna be a fun fight. We'll see if Tony doesn't look terrible. He just
Mhm.
fights people that are better than him at this point in his career where he can't keep up. Chiesa
Yeah,
though, he hasn't fought in I don't know how many years now, losing by submission so many times now. See how he does against Tony. I think I would give the advantage for Tony in this fight, in my
yeah.
opinion.
It could be a winnable fight for Tony. Just my thoughts on Vera and Figueiredo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Biggie wins that fight. You give the man a title shot, whether it's O'Malley or Merab. Both are great fights. Figueiredo looked really, really good, especially last time out against Cody. I thought that was going to be a real big challenge for him, but he looked really, really good, man. So it's a really good option. It's going to be a weird card. It's going to be a weird feeling card, you know, watching, you know, some real close contender type fights. With then Tony Ferguson and Nick Diaz sprinkled in there as well. I mean, do you think Nick Diaz is actually going to make it to fight night?
Just get the paycheck. He gets the show money.
Yeah, because when you put those factors in, he's got to travel, that kind of thing. I mean, I guess that Diaz's aren't one to drop out, are they? But anyway, that has been the pod, mate. It's been a pleasure to be back on with you. We'll get definitely a review in next week of 302. So in the meantime, thank you very much for your time, sir. Go back to partying hard during fight camp. And we'll look forward very much. As I say, go back to the website. Plenty of articles about the fighters on the card. Lots of in-depth about Makhachev, Poirier, Strickland, Costa, etc., and all the latest news as well. Combat Sports UK. John, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. Thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure.
Do enjoy fight night, and we'll see if our decisions come to fruition.
Let's go 5 for 5. Let's go 5 for 5 today.
5 for 5. 5 for 5. All right, man. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Everyone.